I'm 6 months into retirement, and to be candid, it's not what I expected it to be. There's been some pleasant surprises, but there's also been some unpleasant surprises. And I want to be open and candid with everybody. So in today's video, I'm going to share with you the top 12 things that were unexpected surprises for me. And the first one is, you know what? I was under a lot more stress at work than I thought it was. And I had a great job, a job that I really enjoyed. I had a great team that I worked with. But it's just a reality that, we have to deliver results, and that can be stressful. And now that I've been retired 6 months, my blood pressure has gone from being borderline high blood pressure to being back down to normal, for which I'm extremely grateful. So that was a pleasant surprise. An unpleasant surprise is, to be candid, I had a little bit of anxiety about giving up my job from a financial standpoint, just to stop making money. And I've been a financial advisor for 20 years. I have guided people into this, into retirement, and I knew this was coming, but it's one thing to know it here, it's another thing to feel it here. And I definitely felt it. There were days where I'm like, this is scary, right? I mean, you develop a specialized skill, in my case, in many of our cases, and we're well compensated for that skill. But you know what? That skill ages quickly. And it was a little scary to just acknowledge that and to allow that to be. Ultimately, I became comfortable with it. How did I become comfortable with it? It's just, re-looking at my plan and saying, you know what, we're going to be fine. I don't need any new income coming in. But as a breadwinner for 30, 40 years, it was hard to give that up. Okay, the next thing, this is something many of us have heard. It's hard to go from being a saver to a spender, particularly if you're a super saver. I don't know if I'd put myself in a super saver category, but it did not seem painful for me to try to save 20% a year. That's always been my goal. I know I share it with you as well, that unfortunately 10% is not enough to save. We got to strive towards 20%, but to go from saving money to spending money and see that account start going down, kind of takes your breath away for a little bit. Again, going back to my plan and saying, okay, we're going to be fine. So I don't know what I would do if I didn't have a plan that I could go back to and say, okay, I've checked, I've double checked, I've had professionals, I had people at my firm look at my plan as well and just say, okay, you're fine. And going back to that plan gave me a lot of peace of mind. Okay, the next one were unexpected expenses, right? We can plan for things, but it's hard to plan for the unknown unknowns. And unfortunately, life has unknown unknowns. So there were some unexpected expenses, and they kind of are what they are. I had like a lump sum in my plan for that. But it's like, oh, darn, I didn't think about this. So anyways, unexpected expenses. The next I want to talk about that I felt were really the two enemies, what I call the two enemies of retirees. And that first is sequence of return risk, right? I've been fortunate in the 6 months that I've retired. There haven't been many major downturns in the market, but as somebody that was a financial advisor for over 20 years, I know that if the market goes through 3, 4, 5 difficult years when I first retired, that's going to put me in a different situation. So I'm always cautious about that. The second enemy of retirees is inflation, and the sequence of return risk, which is whether you get bad returns in the early years of your retirement, that's out of my control. And so is inflation. But if, it seems like inflation is pretty tame now, but I'm keeping an eye on it because that would change things, and I'd want to adjust, and I'd rather make the change sooner if I have to make a 5% spending cut or something like that. I'd rather know about it sooner so I can plan for it. So those are things that I'm looking out for. The next one is I love learning, and learning is different when you're no longer working, right? When you're learning something new, you're thinking, oh, cool, I can apply it here, I can apply it there. But now the learning is really just for a love of learning and maybe to give me new skills that will help me in different areas. For instance, as I record this, I'm in Costa Rica. And so brushing up on my Spanish was a good thing to do before I came back down here. But personal development, learning, really thinking through, what's my motivation for this? How am I going to use it? How's it going to make my life better? Or is it okay to just learn because I'm curious about something, like the whole AI thing? I'm really interested in what people call AI agents, which are AI tools that we can use to program like jobs that we used to do. I'm really interested in that, but how am I going to apply that? I don't know, but I just enjoy learning. If I was working, it would be like, oh, this task that I'm doing, that's routine. I can use an AI agent for that. Okay. The next one is, fortunately for me, I am good company for myself. But I do find myself with more alone time. When you're working, think about how much of your day, we're 8 hours at work at least, and then probably an hour getting ready for work, getting to work, at least a half hour coming home. And so really, by the time we make dinner and do things like that, we have 2 or 3 hours during the week to ourselves, plus the weekend, as far as empty, unstructured time. And when you're retired, you have 168 hours a week. And, my wife married me for better or worse, but she didn't marry me for 168 hours a week. And so just thinking through, I have a lot of time, which is both a blessing and a curse. And interestingly, another one of my items is I find myself with this sense of urgency. If you're a regular viewer to my channel, I talk about at 60 years old, most of us are going to have less than 1,000 weeks of healthy, active time remaining. And so I find myself with a sense of urgency to make the most of what I call the youth of our senior years. So I have that sense of urgency, but then also on a day-to-day basis, a week-to-week basis, there is this 168 hours a week, and how am I going to spend that? Now, I have 3 firsts in my life, right? It's my family first, my fitness first, and then fun is first. So those are my 3 firsts. I should rank them 1, 2, and 3, but family, fitness, and fun. This falls into the category of fun. Fitness, I've been spending more time on my fitness. I don't want that to become another full-time job, but doing what I can to stay healthy, both in the gym as well as in the kitchen, and then being able to spend more time. I'm fortunate. I'm fortunate that I have time, that I can spend time with some of my older relatives, and I was able to do that before my 92-year-old Aunt Ruth passed away recently, so I had time to fly home and spend some time with her. And we thought she probably had another 6 months, but it turned out she had about 6 weeks, and so I'm grateful that I had that time. Things like this, travel, it's nice that I can travel slower. When we're working, we have a week of vacation. I'm in Costa Rica for about a month, which is a nice chunk of time. I could have never done that when I was working. And then finally is just this being comfortable with what I call slow time, and just gaps between, I have a current passion, I'm planning for a trip like this, I'm doing a trip like this, and then my wife and I later this year are going to go to Europe and do a trip together. But there'll be a gap where I'll have some slow time, and just allowing that to happen and to be, I think, is really important. And whether you're close to retirement, whether you're a decade away from retirement, I think it's important for all of us that we enjoy the journey until we get there. And that's why I made this video here, which are 8 things to stop doing in your 50s and 60s in order to enjoy your journey more. I'll see you in that video. Thanks for watching this one. Bye-bye.